All right, big day for Brave Wilderness. I'm about to attempt to film the real-life Godzilla on the shores of an active volcano in the middle of the Galapagos. But to do that, I will need to dive under those crashing waves if I want to get up close to the only lizard on the planet that navigates the ocean, the marine iguana. Hostile forces of nature. The famous words of Darwin describe the Galapagos perfectly, and that's exactly what we're up against. Filming marine iguanas in action means we will need to scuba dive through shark-filled waters, avoid ripping ocean currents, and brave relentless tidal surges that will throw us around like rag dolls. All right, so as we make our way to the intertidal zone, you can begin to see what we're going to contend with. As a scuba diver, if we get caught in these breakers, it could be game over, but it's what it's gonna take if we want to get up close to those iconic marine iguanas. All right, we have to dive deep quickly to avoid the current. All divers on today's mission are carrying emergency GPS beacons in case one of us gets pulled out to sea. It's critical we remain close together as we make our way toward the iguana feeding grounds. Visibility will change frequently, and there will be many twists and turns to navigate. The water here is very cold, only 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It's also high in nutrients, which attracts more than just iguanas. The Galapagos has one of the most biodiverse marine systems on the planet, making it a critical front line of conservation. But there's no time to waste. We need to save as much air as possible to film the iguanas. The surge will only get stronger the shallower we go. It's almost like the ocean is breathing. Push, calm, pull. Push, calm, pull. This is the most turbulent water I have ever experienced, and it's making it hard to stay submerged. But surfacing now could roll us into the breaking waves, which would be very dangerous and potentially a life-threatening scenario. Only 50 yards from shore, this is where we need to be. And there it is, our first iguana. What you are looking at is one of the most specialized lizards on the planet, and the only one that spends time in the ocean. The marine iguana. If there were ever a living version of Godzilla, this is it. In fact, one of the common names for them on San Cristobal Island is the Godzilla Iguana. Check out that scientific name. It turns out Godzilla is now a real animal. Filming these iguanas is going to be a real test. Luckily, the rocks down here are only covered in plants, so unlike coral, it's okay for us to carefully hold on with our gloves. But the surge is intense, making it nearly impossible to hold on when it rips through. Periods of calm will be our only chance to get close to the iguanas. But make no mistake, the surge will return. Luckily, the iguanas seem laser-focused on feeding, almost ignoring our presence. Clearly, every bite counts when you're braving these conditions. Marine iguanas are herbivores that have adapted many specializations to help them survive at sea for the sole purpose of finding food. The rocks here are covered in a leafy marine salad that includes red and green algae, a favorite of the marine iguana, and one of the only reliable food sources for them in the Galapagos. To get it, They have to sometimes dive 60 feet and hold their breath for up to 30 minutes. They use their hooked, talon-like claws to grip onto the rocks, while their shortened snout allows them to get their teeth closer and into tight spaces to chomp away at the algae. So their Godzilla-like appearance does serve a survival purpose. Marine iguanas have also developed flattened tails that are muscular and help them swim through this hazardous environment. And as much as they need their swimming ability to dive into the ocean, it's the getting back to land when it really comes into play. Unlike us, the iguanas are able to swim right into the breakers and body surf their way back to land. Their ability to navigate the bone-crushing waves is unbelievable. But of course, they save their final and most impressive adaptation for the shore. Because these iguanas feed on plants full of salt water, they have remarkably evolved glands that absorb the salt to be ejected by way of snot rockets, also called wigs. And while it seems gross, it's very efficient and just another unlikely demonstration of how these iguanas have solved the many problems to exist here in the Galapagos. Contrary to their name, marine iguanas spend most of their lives on land. The shores of Fernandina can be stacked with hundreds of basking lizards, and while only adult iguanas dive for food, you can spot subadults and juveniles foraging in the tide pools or just at the water's edge. Large male iguanas are very territorial and can be seen sparring or using head bobs to push off competing males from the rest of the breeding population. Before they branched off to explore the waters of the intertidal zone, marine iguanas started as a land-based species, only driven below the ocean surface due to what must have been an extreme lack of food. In fact, in the Galapagos today, there are 3 distinct species of iguana that are all descendants of a common land ancestor, one of which is the rarest lizard on the planet and the one that brought us to the Galapagos in the first place. The interconnection between land and sea is unmistakable in the Galapagos, and as an ambassador for REWILD.org, we are working together with the Galapagos National Park to ensure this marine reserve is expanded and remains protected for generations to come. There is no better example to the importance of these two worlds than the marine iguana, which is unique to the Galapagos and the only lizard on Earth that has adapted for life in the ocean. The fact they have evolved to survive these hostile forces of nature is truly incredible.
That was such a fun dive.
Woo! That was the coolest scuba diving I've ever done in my entire life. Took everything we had to stay in position and to roll with the surge back and forth. It was surreal. It was like living inside the cover of a National Geographic magazine. A war is being fought in the jungles of the Congo. And the outcome will decide the future of Africa's most endangered wildlife. I'm Mark Vins. For the last 7 years, I've filmed hundreds of extreme adventures in the name of conservation. But now, my team and I have come to one of the most dangerous places on Earth to get face-to-face with the world's most legendary silverback gorilla. A mission that's taken us to the front lines of a deadly conflict. Right now, we are in eastern Congo on our way to Virunga National Park. This road that we're on is called the RN2, which is notorious for being one of the most dangerous roads in all of Africa, therefore making this drive one of the most dangerous in the entire world. Decades of civil war, an Ebola outbreak, in a recent volcanic eruption have given rise to terrorist organizations and armed rebel militias. They've been robbing people, kidnapping for ransom, and yes, shooting and killing civilians all the time. In fact, earlier this year, the Italian ambassador to the Congo was killed on this same road. So I brought an elite camera team with me to the DRC to investigate how these same criminals are destroying Virunga National Park and threatening the last remaining mountain gorillas on the planet. And make no mistake about it, a film crew out here is a prime target and we definitely stand out. If a spotter sees us on the side of the road and phones ahead, the rebel militias could stop us and we're sitting ducks. The only thing keeping us safe on this road are those rangers in that vehicle. The story we're about to show you is, in my opinion, the most important story in world conservation right now. And by the end of it, you too will understand how you can play a critical role in this mission. All right, we made it to Kabumba. We're here. Because the area surrounding the park is largely controlled by rebels, and their activity intensifies at night, even Kabumba, our base camp within the park, falls under strict lockdown, and armed guards patrol the grounds 24/7. At first light, we gear up and prepare to ascend the mountain. We'll need to bushwhack our way through dense jungle to search for signs of gorillas. But to be clear, where we're going, there are no fences or safeguards. This is the domain of the largest and most dominant silverback in the Congo. We're led by Papa Diddy and Papa Augustine, two of the highest-ranking rangers in Virunga. This is an armed ranger detail because we could potentially run into militant groups, but more likely so, we could run into poachers, and that's one of the main threats to this very fragile population of mountain gorillas. Are you ever scared to do this job?
Very, very risky now because of presence of many rebels, you see.
But you do it because...
I love gorillas. I have to say, okay, if I die, I die, and if the gorillas are safe, okay.
As we advance, we encounter our first test, proving some obstacles are more menacing than they might appear. So, this is a huge ant nest. They call them red ants out here. They look a lot like a leafcutter ant. Big nest. Oh, yeah. Yeah, see that? Ah, yeah, he's biting me. Ah. Yeah, check that. Pop 2 holes. Ah. They're all up inside my boots. Ah, my gosh. Woo, ow. Oh, okay. Clearly, wildlife encounters can be unpredictable. That's why it's so important to have rangers like Papa Diddy, with over 30 years of experience under his belt, lead us into the gorilla sector.
They are wild animals. The silverback can believe that you want to catch a baby or to catch a female. If the gorilla charge, do this. Don't try to run. Take a sitting position, look down. When I approach them, I do to tell them that don't be worried and to try to quiet them. Yeah.
As we trek deeper into the forest, it gets thicker. But eventually, we find our first evidence that we're closing in on the gorillas.
This is a nest where the family slept last night.
The gorillas build a new nest every single day because nobody wants to come home to a dirty pile like that. What you're looking at is a key component to the forest's survival. Gorillas are a keystone species responsible for seed distribution through piles like this. If you come down here, this is a silverback's nest.
If you look carefully, you can find silver hair.
Oh. Look at that. you could see the size of the sprawl. This was not the work of a small gorilla. This was the work of a very, very big primate.
As we close in, I'm reminded that we're exposed. There will be no barriers between us and the gorillas. And because we share nearly 99% of our DNA with them, we can also share illness and disease. So we mask up as a precaution.
Okay, we just heard a gorilla right around this bend here. This is it. This is the moment we've traveled so incredibly far for. Not only to the Congo and up this mountainside, but 7 years of adventures have led me to this. There's a gorilla approaching us. It's right here. My hands are shaking. My heart is beating out of my chest. Oh my gosh.
They're serious.
Are we safe? Oh my gosh, geez, film that. Film his face. Oh my gosh. Okay, that was insane. The two silverbacks in his family were fighting for dominance, and you could see where there's actually battle damage. The subdominant silverback is bleeding from the face.
That was definitely not what I expected for our first gorilla encounter. Despite the fact I've been told gorillas can be aggressively territorial
It's a baby gorilla.
and will viciously protect their families if provoked.
Mark it around.
Silverback gorilla. We're gonna get closer. Look at the size of the bite on his neck.
The only thing that's going to give a silverback that big, a gash like that, is a fight with the dominant male. That tells me this is not the silverback we're looking for. And staring at that wound, I have to ask myself, do I really want to meet the animal that did that? Despite my fear ringing the alarm bell to turn back, we press on and find ourselves in the middle of something I've never seen documented.
It's a bit of a gorilla feeding frenzy. They found a banana tree and they're literally ripping off the inside of the plant and eating it from beneath.
Gorillas are almost entirely herbivores. And during the dry season, they binge on wild banana trees for sustenance and hydration. A feast like this is extremely rare to witness. Making it this far into the family unit has me wondering, is the dominant silverback still in the distance? Or could he be watching us from just behind the brush? Miles away from camp, in the middle of the gorilla sector, any step, any move, anything can happen, including coming face to face with the king of this jungle.
His bargain mark.
This is the dominant male.
The dominant male here in the family.
He's okay with us being here.
Yeah,
like
they're
that.
okay.
He's the father of the largest family of gorillas here in Virunga National Park. 44 gorillas in his family.
This is the biggest gorilla in the Congo. As the dominant male in his family, Begeni calls the shots. He's responsible for determining where the family travels, choosing its daily activities, and fathering the vast majority of the offspring.
Must weigh over 400 pounds. He's a handsome silverback and he knows it.
Yeah.
I would estimate Begeni's hand is at least 5 to 8 times bigger than my hand. Look at those teeth. Did you see those teeth?
Mountain gorillas are a subspecies of eastern gorilla, and because they live in high elevations and experience freezing temperatures, they possess longer hair, making them distinct from all other gorilla species.
You can see them thinking, observing us. I'm just completely in awe. Look at the way that they're bonding, caring for each other, nurturing one another, and their curiosity of us is undeniable. It's like looking in a mirror.
So how many gorillas are around him?
Maybe 30 can be around, 30 gorillas.
What we're witnessing is progress. Decades of poaching and habitat destruction brought the mountain gorilla population down below 400 individuals. But in recent years, they've crested back to over 1,000, proving the conservation efforts led by Virunga's rangers are working. However, the gorillas still remain an endangered species, and their future remains uncertain.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you call that a wildlife encounter. It's almost like looking through time, like our ancestry, being in their family. They weren't animals to me in that moment. It was an unmistakably human experience. Wow.
Encountering gorillas in the wild was, to say the least, life-changing. But our mission is far from over. Virunga National Park spans more than 3,000 square miles and is home to over 50% of the animal species on the continent. It's also Africa's oldest national park and part of the second largest rainforest on Earth, making the lungs of Africa a critical battleground in the fight against climate change. Unfortunately, protecting gorillas is only one of the battles. Criminal factions are poaching wildlife and burning the forest at breakneck speed, and their actions are affecting all of us. As I begin to understand this firsthand, I'm compelled to go deeper into the heart of the conflict, even if it means going behind enemy lines.
There are militia units below us, and they're hostile to the park, so they would fire at us.
Are we safe being up here in this airplane?
If we're over 2,000 feet, the bullets, they don't even penetrate the skin.
Emmanuel Desmarode is the director of Virunga National Park. Having served for over 30 years, he now commands the ranger battalion that defends it. And right now, he's flying us up to Lake Edward, one of the most conflicted front lines of conservation in all of Africa. For years, it's been a victim of mass poaching and a prime target for illegal mining activity.
We're starting to get into much more of a militia-controlled area here. Up to about here, it's the FDLR militias, and then further north, it's these Mai Congolese militias, who historically have been very, very violent.
How often are your rangers being confronted with these militia rebels?
Typically 2 or 3 confrontations every week, so it's every few
week?
days, yeah.
Over 200 rangers have lost their lives in clashes with militias. In fact, just 4 months prior to our arrival, half a dozen rangers were gunned down by rebel forces. Yet despite the frequency of the brazen attacks in this area, it's where we must go if we want to understand the causes that undermine the foundation of the park. And to see the impact of those threats on the wildlife, we'll need to get within striking distance of Africa's deadliest animal. Lake Edward's 900 square mile body of water and its fish sustain hundreds of thousands of people, and the linchpin for all of it is the hippopotamus. In order to get a closer look at one of the last pods of hippos left in eastern Congo, we must leave the safety of our boat and set out on foot.
Wow. Look at that. That's a lot of hippos. Yeah.
Although they appear slow, and at times even docile, hippos are the most dangerous animal on the continent, responsible for more human deaths than any other mammal.
Check that out. They're staring right at us. This is probably about as close as we want to get.
You wouldn't want to get into the water with them.
Lake Edward was once home to the largest population of hippos in the world. At one point, over 27,000 of them roamed these waters. But by the 1990s, poaching took their numbers all the way down to less than 350 individuals. As another keystone species, hippos play a critical role in this freshwater environment by providing essential nutrients to the lake and its fish. In turn, they help sustain communities surrounding Lake Edward. Without them, locals will suffer and the lake will eventually die.
So we lost almost 99% of all the hippos. Hippos are killed for their meat. One hippo will fetch $300 or $400 on the local market. That's a huge amount of money for the militias. Anyone who's got a gun can suddenly make a lot of money. For the last 10 years, we've been really working on trying to protect these populations, but still a long way to go.
So if you could boil it down, the short-term gains of poaching are leading to potentially long-term detriment for the communities that live around the park.
But if we don't find a solution, there is no future for this park. What's needed is change.
The change Emmanuel hopes to see comes with a cost. In his 30 years at Virunga, he's faced many obstacles, including a hostile takeover of the park and clashes with the militants themselves, one of which included an assassination attempt.
In 2014, I was in an ambush. As I was getting out of the vehicle, I got hit in the chest, and then almost immediately after in the stomach by an AK-47, my rifle. And then some people from the village came and they put me on the back of a motorbike and basically saved my life.
When you got through that, did you find that your resolve was stronger?
It makes you want to succeed. And, you know, there's been such an enormous sacrifice on the part of Virunga's rangers that we have to succeed.
There was a terrible attack just over this area we're just crossing now.
When it comes to the rebel groups and the militias, why did they choose Virunga? Why are they here?
You know, with the civil war in Congo, then the Rwandan genocide that brought them here. But what's kept them here is the illegal trafficking of natural resources in the east of Congo, in particular Virunga National Park. So there you'll see some charcoal burning.
Yep.
It's the guerrilla sector. It's under enormous threat from the clearing of forest. There it's thousands of acres of forest that have been cleared for charcoal, and it's really the main source of revenue for those militias.
Rebel groups and armed militias have pillaged Virunga. By burning trees and turning them into charcoal, they've created a $40 million a year black market that preys upon basic human needs, like boiling water and cooking food. This situation continues to drive the illegal logging that has led to a tipping point. If the damage they've done isn't reversed soon, the park has very little chance of survival.
What can be done to solve these problems?
What we desperately need is clean energy, renewable energy, not oil and not charcoal.
And where is this renewable energy solution taking place?
Well, let me show you.
Emmanuel brings me to Metebe, home to a run-of-river hydroelectric plant in the heart of Virunga. It's powered by the Rutshuru River, which flows from Lake Edward and generates 14 megawatts of electricity, enough energy for over 1.5 million residents in nearby Goma. Since there's no dam, there's minimal disruption to the natural ecosystem, making this plant a truly green source of energy.
We're hoping in the next 8 years to create 8 power plants like this to generate 105 megawatts. That is enough power to create between 80 and 100,000 jobs. Enough to draw out all the young men and women from the militias and work on a whole new instrument for bringing stability to the region.
Between here and there, that 105 megawatt goal, what can people do at home to help Virunga?
Well, what we need more than anything really is support for the rangers on the ground, because they're doing the critical work of keeping, that precious asset, which is the national park. If we can't keep the park alive, all of this disappears.
So you truly have light at the end of the tunnel. What you need essentially is time to build this.
Yeah,
to that
we've
place.
just got to hold it together for another 8 years, and then we have this extraordinary national park that is good for generations to come.
As our adventure in the Congo comes to a close, we're all left amazed by the incredible journey we just experienced. But we realize our work to help the rangers of Virunga has only just begun.
I came to the Congo expecting to find danger and desperation. However, what I found was hope for a brighter future, but it's by no means guaranteed. The challenges here are very real, and the stakes couldn't be higher. For far too long, we've left the poorest people in the world to solve this problem alone. So what can we do? First, we can tell our friends and family about this story. By sharing this video, we can raise global support for Virunga. Spreading awareness is a simple way we can all be part of this solution. Second, we can buy the Virunga Rangers the one thing they need more than anything else: time.
8 to 10 years. That's what it's going to take until the majority of this region has easy access to electricity, and the demand for charcoal and poaching of wildlife for profit is all but eradicated. Until then, Virunga's rangers will continue to have targets on their backs as they tirelessly defend against the factions who decimate its forests and brutally hunt its animals to extinction. But the ranger program and the very lives of each and every ranger hangs by the thinnest of threads. Instability in the region has crippled the flow of funding to the ranger program, and without it, neither the rangers or the parks stand a chance. Without the funding they need to continue their work, the ranger program goes away. And without them, the park and its wildlife will be destroyed. If that happens, millions of people in this region will face starvation, and the planet will lose one of its most valuable weapons in the fight against climate change. That's why we're partnering with REAL.org and its founding board member Leonardo DiCaprio, as well as another very special supporter.
Hello, I'm Jane Goodall, and I'm joining Brave Wilderness and REAL.org in calling attention to this urgent issue. It's imperative that we all come together and take action by giving to Virunga's Ranger program and sharing this story. It costs just $16 to keep a ranger in the field for a day. By donating, you can help keep Virunga's Ranger program alive. The work that the rangers do to preserve the park is essential, not only for the wildlife, but also for everyone that lives there. Every dollar counts, and 100% of the money you give will go directly to Rewild for Virunga's Ranger program. And if you're unable to give, then please join us by sharing this video far and wide. The time is now, and the power to make change is in your hands.
We can help save Africa's oldest national park and its endangered mountain gorillas. And to kick things off, Brave Wilderness is donating 2,000 ranger days to Virunga. So donate to REAL.org and join us in supporting these brave men and women that risk their lives every single day.
High above the Amazon basin, hidden amongst the clouds, the most destructive disease ever known to science is raging through the environment, killing thousands and leaving a trail of extinction in its wake. While these worlds are largely isolated from the rest of civilization, the future of these inverse islands are in jeopardy and are where some of the world's rarest and most important creatures live. While many of them have already been lost for eternity, it is believed that survivors remain that might possess a cure to ending this devastating pandemic. But without active preservation, we might lose their secrets as well. With time quickly running out, we will join a scientific mission and brave into these mysterious places in an attempt to discover this holy grail of the Amazon before it's too late.
Oh, I think I got one.
Really?
Got it.
Yeah, that's
Is this
the
it?
one. Yeah, that's the one. Woo!
Haha!
Our journey begins in Quito, Ecuador, at Humbatu, a world-renowned amphibian research center. The scientists here study hundreds of endangered species of frogs and toads in an effort to solve everything from extinction of species to advanced medical science surrounding frog toxins. This is where we are meeting up with Dr. Lina Valencia, a conservation scientist with REWILD.org that is leading our research mission into the wilds of the Amazon slopes. But first, we need to understand what exactly we will be searching for.
Lina, what a room. This is so cool. What do you have here?
Look at this beautiful harlequin toad.
Wow, it is gorgeous.
Look at these jewels of the forest of South and Central America. Look at
This is a harlequin toad.
Yep.
Is it a toad or is it a frog? Because, I mean, to me, we filmed poison frogs. It looks a lot like a frog.
It is colorful like a poison frog, but it's a toad.
It's a toad. What a beautiful amphibian. Do you mind if, can I
No,
hold
go
one too?
for it.
Very gentle.
They're sadly one of the most endangered groups of amphibians. Most of them are threatened or endangered by a deadly infectious disease. It's a fungus that it's like a pandemic that is wiping populations of harlequin toads and other amphibian species everywhere in the world.
This fungus, tell me a little bit more about it.
So amphibians and frogs, harlequin toads, they breathe through their skin. And this fungus, what basically does is they cause heart attack that instantly kills these toads.
Right now, we're at Humbatu, which is one of the world's biggest amphibian research centers. And what are they doing to try to preserve this species from extinction?
What they're doing here in Humbatu is to reproduce them and breed them in captivity, like in facilities, so when it's safe to go out and reintroduce them, they can then go back and thrive.
Wow. So, Lina, does this harlequin toad possess the answer, the secret to solving the fungus problem?
We don't think so, but that's why you're here, Mark. We're heading tomorrow to the field to try to find the species that might have the solution for the pandemic.
Wow, so we're looking for like the holy grail of harlequin toads.
Yep, another new undescribed species that might have the solution, the key to what we have been looking for so many years.
With sights set on the critical mission to locate one of these extremely rare amphibians, we began our trek into the untamed wilderness of southeastern Ecuador. This is one of many locations around Latin America studied by the Atalopus Survival Initiative and their wide network of field research to uncover scientific information surrounding the outbreak. Today we are hoping to find a critical piece of the puzzle to help them crack the code. And after traveling hundreds of miles, over mountains, through mountains, and to the edge of the Amazon rainforest, we set out on foot and hiked into the unknown. Through the forest, we forged streams, muddy terrain, and endured cold mountain rainstorms that soaked us to the bone. But it would all be worth it if we could be lucky enough to discover one of these scientific treasures.
Wow, this place is unbelievable.
Welcome to the Amazon.
So, Lena, what signs are we looking for to try to spot one of these rare amphibians?
So harlequin toads do live in the forest, but because we're at the end of the reproductive season, most likely we will see them by the creeks where they are reproducing.
So how far are we gonna hike in there?
We have like 40 minutes and then we start going down.
Okay.
Rainforests earn their name for a reason. In one of the wettest places on Earth, we searched for what seemed like hours without a single glimpse of a toad.
All right, Lena, is this a good spot?
Yeah, let's look under the leaves here by the streams, but also look on top of the leaves up there.
All right.
While we did stumble upon other bizarre inhabitants, I started to lose hope of a successful outcome. But then, almost on cue, the rain subsided, the sun came out, and out of the corner of my eye, I caught a flash of color.
Oh, I think I got one.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, hang on, hang on. Slow. Got him.
That's
Is this
the
it?
one. Yeah, that's the one. You see that yellow coloration? That's
Oh, yeah.
probably a female. What a
Oh,
beauty.
man. Yes.
Good job.
Woo! Oh my goodness, I can't believe we finally found one. Here, let's set up right here. We got our gloves out. So we want to make sure handling these, we wear gloves, right?
Right, because remember the disease, the fungus? We want to be sure we're not transmitting any diseases. It's mainly to protect them.
Beautiful. Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
This is the toad we were looking for, right, Lena?
Yeah, this is the toad that we think might have an answer to this epidemic that is affecting harlequin toads.
This harlequin toad, this is a brand new species.
Yes, this is a species that will be described for science.
Wow.
And if you look, the belly is a little bit brighter coloration, and that's how you know it's a female. And you can see the hands and the feet, they have a red, beautiful, bright coloration. And that's why we call them the jewels, because they are decorating the forests and creeks of South America and Central America.
Do you mind if I?
No, go for it.
Oh, I got it. Oh, I love how charismatic these toads are. They have so much personality, just like the way they walk.
They're so elegant and...
They're so proud, the way they stand up on their haunches.
And people tend to think that toads are ugly and big, but look at these.
How many species, known species of harlequin toad exist?
So known species, there's described 98, but we think there's gonna be around 120 that need to be described like this one.
So that name, Jewel of the Rainforest, it doesn't just represent the beautiful coloration of these toads, it's the rarity. These are extremely rare amphibians. I mean, guys, we've been walking and hiking in this jungle all day long, and we've only seen one.
And you only find them in very, very small places. They're unique and jewels, they're rare.
This environment that we're in now, the fact that we found a toad here means that this is a very pristine environment. This water is almost drinkable.
Right, so harlequin toads are an indicator of water quality. So if you see a harlequin toad in a place like this, it's because most likely this is healthy water.
There's a fairly high likelihood that we are some of the few people that have actually made contact with this species.
Absolutely, you're a lucky man. And as you could see, we had to walk a lot to see it. So it's not a common animal.
The majority of harlequin toad species are endangered.
They're in danger and they're endemic, which means that they're only found in one place.
This species of harlequin toad only resides in the inverse islands of Latin America.
If this disappears from this place, we won't have them anywhere else in the world. So that makes them even more threatened.
These harlequin toads are disappearing at an increasing rate.
Yeah, and I hope it's not the case, but we might come in a year and we might not see it again.
So it's very important and timely that we're here today in the rainforest and we found a toad to bring back to Jumbatu because this particular harlequin toad might just hold the secret to the entire species for saving them from this fungus.
If we unlock the secret of why they're surviving, we can use that information to save the rest.
So there's a high likelihood that this harlequin toad that we've found actually does have the fungus right now.
Yep.
How is it possible that this harlequin toad is surviving with the fungus?
Well, the first thing that we need to know is to be sure that it has the fungus.
Got it.
So we will do some swabs, we will collect that information and take it back to the lab to see if it indeed has BD. BD is the scientific name for this deadly disease.
Got it. So hopefully this might be the information they need to develop a vaccine of sorts for this deadly disease.
But it's important to know, Mark, that it's not just the fungus. Also, if we lose this forest, if we pollute this water, it doesn't matter if they have an immunity. We still have to protect the habitat where they live.
Right.
If the world's worst pathogen outbreak wasn't enough, the habitat of these toads and all wildlife in Latin America are under constant threat from pollution, deforestation, strip mining of wild lands, and the global climate crisis in general. The toad we found today will be highly valuable in taking one step closer to finding a cure to BD. But if we don't save the forests, rivers, and streams that make up this beautiful ecosystem, all the effort to save this species will be lost.
In Hambato, we love frogs. Saving frogs is my life's work. Please consider joining the effort to save frogs from extinction with us.
While it is quite possible the harlequin toad featured in this video may never be seen again in the wild, it isn't too late to support programs like Humbatu and the Atelopus Survival Initiative that are protecting and breeding these toads in captivity for re-release into the wild once the pandemic is over. Please click the donate button or the link in the description to join Brave Wilderness and ReWild.org in supporting their critical work. We must not allow these jewels of the rainforest to disappear without a fight. The time for us to save them is now.
I think I see it.
Yep, here's our turtle.
And it does look like we are in time for this sea turtle to have a chance.
Getting these guys through and back into the ocean is critical.
Oh, poor little turtle.
All right, guys, we just got the call. We are on a sea turtle rescue mission, and right now there's a turtle on a beach about 15 miles north from here and needs our help. These sea turtles, when they end up beach, it's because they're distressed and they can no longer swim. And without programs like the one we're participating in, they would all certainly die. So needless to say, this sea turtle right now, its life depends on us.
Just this past year alone, more than 850 sea turtles were rescued off the shores of Massachusetts, a number that has been sadly increasing. Endangered sea turtles like the Kemp's Ridley, green, and loggerhead are washing up on beaches due to cold stunning, and the changing climate is only making matters worse.
I think I see it.
Yep, here's our turtle.
A volunteer was combing this beach and they discovered this Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. And this is exactly what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to take the turtles off of the beach, away from the wind, and then you can see it was covered here with this bit of straw to protect it from exposure. And it does look like we are in time for this sea turtle to have a chance, because you can see it still has a little bit of strength in its neck, just enough to pick up its head. And that is a very good sign, because most of the turtles that you find that are cold stunned cannot move whatsoever. So let's bundle this little turtle up and take it to the Wellfleet Sanctuary, where it will start its process of rehabilitation and hopeful re-release back into the wild.
Rapidly fluctuating sea temperatures due to climate change are narrowing the window for these turtles to safely migrate south each year. Rising sea temperatures are holding the turtles in northern waters for too long, and any sudden drop in water temperature below 50 degrees results in a mass cold stunning event for these marine reptiles.
We have to be super quiet because these turtles are already really stressed, and loud noises have been proven to stress them even further.
Oh, poor little turtle.
We did notice that it had a bit of a response when we picked it up off the beach. Like it had some ability to raise its head.
So that's pretty rare, honestly. A lot of the time these turtles are barely moving at all. Sometimes we'll think a turtle's dead and we'll leave it overnight to assess in the morning to make sure that it's still alive.
Cool. Is this our turtle?
This is our turtle.
All right. How do we know that this turtle isn't dead?
So when we first bring it onto this processing table, we will check to see if its flippers are in rigor.
Rigor is short for rigor mortis. When an animal dies, it starts to seize up and all of its joints and body parts become stiff.
So there was slight movement right there.
Saw that.
Yep. We'll kind of gently tug on their back flippers, and then we'll touch their eye for a small eye response as well. And then what we'll do is we will actually use this pit tag scanner here because sometimes these turtles wash in and they have been tagged and no tag was detected here. Then the next thing we'll do is we will take measurements of its carapace. We will look to see if there are any injuries on the turtle anywhere, sometimes from pecking from seagulls if they've been sitting on the beach for a while. And then they'll sometimes have some wounds on their carapace.
And that's why it's so important to get these turtles off the beach as quickly as possible.
Each animal receives a number upon entry to the Wellfleet Bay Wildlife Sanctuary. And of the 4 sea turtles we assisted in rescuing, number 569 was the first to be sent for urgent care.
On your way, bud.
So we quickly mobilized and followed it to the New England Aquarium's Sea Turtle Hospital.
Look at all these turtles. Okay, we'll see you in a little bit. Let's go, guys. All right, here we are at the Sea Turtle Hospital. Let's go inside to see our Kemp's Ridley start its rehabilitation process. Come on this way. All right, how's it going, Adam? Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming.
So are these our turtles?
These are our turtles, and you got 569, and the Kemps are very similar looking. And as you'll see, there's lots of turtles everywhere. And once they get into the water, they look even more similar. So we'll bring them up, we'll put a number on their shell, and we put a band around their flipper. So that way when we're looking for certain turtles, especially when they're in the water, they'll be easier to find.
Awesome.
Now we're gonna try to listen to see what the heart rate sounds like.
Cool. And their metabolism at this rate is very slow.
Extremely slow.
And that's why you need these special instruments to be able to read that. We're listening for the turtle's heartbeat. So far, I just hear static. Oh, I think I just heard a whoosh. So this turtle's significantly lower heart rate than it's going to be when it leaves.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. So with that, we will give it a dose of epinephrine. That will help get that heart rate a little bit up there, get them a little bit more prepped for a swim.
So this is like the jump start for the rehabilitation process here at the hospital.
Once a sea turtle receives epinephrine, it is then placed in a small pool of water for observation. Also called a swim test, this is where the clinical team will look for signs of other damage and possible infections.
Let's see how 569 does.
So that's a great sign, obviously, that nice little breath there. And turtle's going into the water. And so, yeah, I mean, he's ready to go.
That.
For these turtles, freshwater is important because of the dehydration piece. Helps rehydrate them. 1 or 2 days in that freshwater won't be detrimental, and then they're into the full saltwater tanks. These turtles have been out there breathing in cold air, water, so we see a lot of pneumonia. So you can kind of see he's slowing down a little bit there.
Okay.
We also see how high in the water he is, so he's definitely got some gas in his system there that's keeping him very floaty. As you can see, and he has some odd coloration in those front flippers, so he may have some skin issues that over the next few days as he warms up might become a little bit more prevalent.
So I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Adam, but in your professional experience, how would you say our turtle here, number 569, is looking in terms of its potential for rehabilitation?
Yeah, no, the prognosis for this turtle at this point would be good. I saw some bubbles coming out of the ears, the nose. Then you saw him lift his head and took a nice breath. So that's all great things.
Love it. That is so great to hear. And it's so nice to see the turtle lively again. I feel like most people who would encounter one of these cold stun turtles on the beach might even think they were already dead. But sure enough, here at the hospital, after a little shot of epinephrine and a chance to swim, we've got a lot of movement. All right, so now that our turtle has swam for the first time at the hospital, part of the rehabilitation process of warming them back up to the appropriate temperature, which is about 72 degrees, takes a few days. After treating nearly 5,000 turtles, this facility has learned quite a bit about how to bring the temperature back up in the appropriate way, and the best way they found to do it is a staged process over days using multiple tanks. Over the next 2 days, they will actually be placed in the saltwater baths that will raise them up to about 65 degrees and then eventually up to the 72 degrees that you'll see here in the holding tanks. These turtles here, they're already being raised up to temperature. Pretty cool, and definitely something that really helps these turtles stand a chance of being re-released.
Along with being critically endangered, the Kemp's Ridley is also the rarest sea turtle on the planet. Once abundant, their population suffered a massive crash in the 1980s, where as few as 250 nesting females were estimated to remain. Luckily for the world's smallest and rarest sea turtle, large-scale conservation efforts helped restore their population to stability by the mid-2000s. However, with current climate trends being as they are, the pressure is now back on to save this species from extinction.
I've heard reports that the Kemp's Ridley are somewhere in the population of 30 to 40,000 individuals in the world. Is that what you've heard also?
They are a critically endangered population.
So, I mean, the fact that you're seeing thousands of turtles come through the facility, this is a significant mass of this species.
Getting these guys through and back into the ocean is critical.
Well, this is not the end of the road for the video, guys. We actually have one more step that we want to show you as part of this turtle rehabilitation program. This one, though, is going to take us on a short trip to the airport. So as you can see, we are no longer in the Sea Turtle Hospital. We are in an air hangar because there's an amazing volunteer program called Turtles Fly 2 that takes these sea turtles down to warmer waters in the southern United States, where they will finish their rehabilitation and be released back into the wild much sooner than Mother Nature would allow here in New England. And we just got word that the turtles will arrive, so it's time to get to work and load up these sea turtles. All right, so you have a van load and a truckload full of sea turtles that are being loaded up by volunteers and aquarium staff onto this aircraft right now. They're trying to set a record today by loading 100 sea turtles onto this airplane. That's a lot of reptiles. So right now the pilot and the co-pilot are up there playing a little bit of turtle Tetris to try to get all of these animals loaded up onto this aircraft. It takes a lot of resources to fly these turtles, so they want to make sure every flight is efficient and as productive as they can. Trying to get one more up there?
Yeah, I think they have a little shorter banana box.
Okay. Nice. Oh, there's more turtles. There's always more turtles. Last one. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, got the final turtle box to load into the aircraft. Last one. Something I never thought I would say. Turtles on an airplane. But here in New England, it happens about a dozen times a year. That's cool.
The turtles that make the flight to Florida are the ones ready to be released back into the wild. But others needing more long-term rehabilitation, like our friend 569, will continue to receive care at the Sea Turtle Hospital until they are ready to be released when spring returns to New England. Researchers have predicted that by 2031, just 8 years from this video's release, thousands of cold-stunned sea turtles will wash up on New England shores every single year. It takes an amazing collaboration to combat these events and return healthy sea turtles into the ocean to rejoin their populations. From emergency veterinarians to airplane pilots to hundreds of beachcombing volunteers, I was so proud to play a small part in saving these rare and endangered animals. But the work continues every single day from the cold shores of Cape Cod to the warm waters of South Florida. And these wildlife heroes need our support. Please join Brave Wilderness in the New England Aquarium by clicking the link in the description to donate, spread awareness, or perhaps volunteer yourself in the effort to save these beloved treasures of our oceans.